And joining us more this midday to talk about the latest cabinet change, political strategist Joel Payne. Joel, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
I asked you earlier if you were surprised by this in any level except maybe for the timing.
Yeah, the timing is a little surprising. Look, this has been rumored for a long time. I mean, you could argue that Secretary Tillerson has been on the hot seat almost essentially since he was confirmed. It sounds like the president, and I think actually what you got there was a really candid assessment from the president. Disagreements about North Korea, disagreements about the Iran deal. I think the timing of North Korea is very essential to this as well.
With a cabinet position that's supposed to be in lockstep, the president and secretary of state, if he can't speak for the president going abroad, who can in that
Listen,
case?
even the opponents of the president would have to acknowledge the president has to have a unified national security team. It looks like that's what this is all about. It looks like also Pompeo, who is a Kelly ally and a Trump ally, someone who the president said really speaks his voice very well on these issues.
And I think it was very telling as well to hear that President Trump said that he made the decision himself to talk, have the nuclear talks with North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, without talking to Rex Tillerson about this. I mean, going around your Secretary of State seems hard to believe.
And it seems like, even though the secretary, I mean, we've heard a lot out of the State Department this morning that the secretary wasn't aware of this. Actually, a very candid statement from an undersecretary who said the secretary was planning on continuing. But if the president isn't even consulting him about these North Korea talks, I don't know how anyone can be surprised with this morning's announcements.
Mike Pompeo, head of the CIA, a graduate of West Point. He has a very distinguished Washington resume. That's a nomination that'll have to get through the Senate, and the Senate margin is now more narrow than it has been in a while.
I don't think this is a fight that Democrats will pick on the Senate. Look, I think, again, even opponents of the president will acknowledge he has to have a unified national security team. Mike Pompeo, there are political disagreements there. You've seen actually a couple of House members talk about some of his stances on torture, some of his stances on globalism or anti-globalism, but the fact is he is someone who's respected, who's done a good job at CIA, and I think he'll have a pretty easy confirmation hearing by Washington standards in 2018.
Mr. Trump has not been the most easy person to get along with. We've seen quite a number of people leaving his administration. Do you think that Mike Pompeo will be more politically in line with the president than Rex Tillerson?
He will be, not just with the president, but also I thought it was interesting. I saw Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the UN, tweeted this morning, said really nothing about Rex Tillerson, was really enthusiastic about Mike Pompeo stepping into this role. I think that signals there was a lot of disagreement and a lot of churn over Secretary Tillerson and some of his stances, even not just with the president, but others in the cabinet as well.
There's always a lot of reading of the entrails in this town after it's over. You cut up the body pretty good to try and figure out what's going on. There probably wasn't any great surprise by this. Maybe almost from the beginning, Rex Tillerson, better CEO at Exxon than he ever would have been as a Secretary of State?
Probably a little overqualified for this job. Look, when you're in a position like CEO of Exxon, you're not used to taking orders, particularly from a president like Donald Trump.
Yes.
One other thing that's interesting here, Mike Pompeo, while he is lockstep with the president in terms of his tone, he's not been lockstep on Russia. He's actually been very critical of the Russian government and their interference in the election. Really very similar to Rex Tillerson in that way. So I think it's interesting that the president is making this move. He's going for comfort, but it's not someone who's been lockstep with him on all of his policy announcements and particularly all of his feelings on Russia.
All right, it'll be interesting to see how the two do get along in the future. Thanks so much for joining us today, political strategist Joel Payne.
Thank you.